So those of you who are brand new to our live streams, we keep these to 60 minutes. We have a hard finish on 60. And we do allow time for questions. So please, if you have any question at any point in time for me or Emily, I'll be introducing Emily shortly. If you have a question, just put it in the chat box wherever you are. But this is really important. And perhaps Sarah can help me out at this point in time. If you have a question, put 2 capital Qs in front. QQ, then your question. And the reason for that is just because the chat sometimes goes crazy, which is great. I love it when there's comments and chat going on. It'll help me, though, to find those questions if you put the 2 capital Qs in front. So as soon as I see somebody help me out, I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. While I wait for that, let me just a couple of quick announcements. Oh, here we come. My partner, Sarah. There you go. That's what you want to do with your questions. Put the 2 capital Qs in front and a question mark at the end. It just then jumps out. So another Sarah Kelly. There you go. 2 capital Qs. And I've now got lots of people doing that. Clive's. So a few of you know what Qs are. Great. It just helps me to see your question. And I will try to answer as many questions as possible during the course of the session. We're going to try and allow 10 minutes at the end. We always answer them on a first come, first served. We don't always get through all the questions. So if you have a burning question for me or for Emily, the sooner you ask it, the more likely it'll get answered. Okay, a couple more quick things before we dive in. Those of you who are regulars will know that we are, with all of our live streams, we always help to make the world a better place through the amazing B1G1 organisation. And we always pick a project for the month of August. It's helping women who have been subject to domestic violence. And so for each and every one of you that are on this live session today, when we get the numbers, we will make a contribution to this project on your behalf. So that's B1G1. Another quick thing is if you are fairly new to our channel and you want to learn more about ChatGPT, we do have an ebook. If you haven't got the ebook yet, then you can either use your phone and scan that QR code, or my team, probably Sarah, will put in the chat box the link if you prefer to click on a link. Just give it a few minutes because you have to go around all different social channels and paste that link. So that's the ebook. And also, if you came to our 2-day virtual conference recently, I think about two weeks ago, we launched our brand new ChatGPT training course. So if you want to go deeper on training with ChatGPT and get access to videos, I will ask Sarah to put a link to that into the chat. Okay, I think we are close to being ready to start, and I'll bring Emily in a second, but let me just check the chat before I do, because it has gone, I think, crazy with lots more people here. Farsi is here from South Africa, so is Rimash. Sharon Turner's here. I think I saw Neil's here. Hi there, Neil. Good to see you. We also have any other comments? Ahmad's here as well. I can see Sarah's put all the links in. Anything else important I need to see? No, but my good friend David is here as well from Houston. Hi there, David. Good to see you. Right, let's get started. So I'm going to bring on Emily. Most of you know Emily, but for those of you that don't, Emily is our head of marketing and also one of our ChatGPT gurus. And she's been running these live streams with me. Hi there, Emily. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Awesome. Excellent. So as usual, I thought we'd kick off with just some of the latest news, because this whole space this year in AI and ChatGPT is moving at an extraordinary pace. And Emily and I, we were inspired to do this session on a top 10 features simply because back on the 3rd of August, ChatGPT launched a number of new things. And so we thought it would be good just to consolidate and do a session where we take you through what are our favorite features inside ChatGPT. But before we get to that top 10, and we'll do it as a top 10 shootout from 10 to 1, just a few latest news items. So I think I have a couple. I think Emily might have a couple as well. My first one is as of, I think it was Monday this week, I think it was, Emily, ChatGPT, OpenAI announced that they were officially launching ChatGPT Enterprise. So that's their version of ChatGPT aimed at larger organizations. Now, I can't tell you how much that's going to cost because it's on application. We have applied. We haven't had a response yet, other than to say that that's in the system. I suspect that ChatGPT Enterprise is not going to be relevant to you whatsoever because I think it's aimed at much, much bigger businesses. I know that PwC, for example, have been using the Enterprise version. However, the more interesting thing, I don't think ChatGPT Enterprise is of interest to us, but I think what will be of interest is they did announce that they will soon be launching ChatGPT Business, which is aimed at the smaller business. So for those of you with perhaps a team of people in your firms and you want to share stuff and use ChatGPT more, then I suspect that we will see something pretty interesting in the weeks or months to come when they launch ChatGPT Business. But at the moment, I can't tell you anything more than that. I think just watch this space. Emily, what's your first news item?
Yeah, so I got a couple. The first one is recently, maybe a couple of weeks ago, definitely a couple of weeks ago, they added a mobile version of ChatGPT. So they released the iOS version for Apple phones first. And then recently, I'm an Android user and they've released the Android app as well. So if you're somebody who likes to use it a bit on the go, which I tend to do for personal errands and stuff, I use it on the go, then there's now an app and it works really well in there. It doesn't have the features like the plugins and the advanced stuff. It is just the basic model, but it uses GPT-4, I think, on the paid version anyway. So that's just a really, really useful thing. And then another couple of updates that I got thanks to Mark Rayner, who's here. I've seen him here. He sent those my way the other day. Really useful information is that Google's Workspace have now released. So a couple of live streams ago, I talked about Copilot from Microsoft, which is where they are adding an AI sort of sidekick to all of their platform around all of their Microsoft tools, your Office, your Excel, your PowerPoint, all of those sorts of things. So Google Workspace have come with their own version of that, which is called Duet AI. So it looks really useful. I've looked at some of the videos where they've announced it, and it looks really, really good, really practical. So if you're interested in that, I'm a Google girl, so I like that. I'm probably going to look at that. And there was also another one called Notebook LM, which is very new, so still very early days, still a bit messy, but what that's essentially going to do is allow you to upload lots of your documents, notes, data, files, and then have a conversation based off of the information in those files. So that's another useful program. It's still very early days, so we're going to keep tabs on it, I think, but they're coming out, and it's kind of choosing your side. Are you Microsoft or are you Google, and stuff like that. But thanks to Mark Rayner for sending that my way as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other news, or is that your bit done?
That's it from me.
Okay. The only other thing that I will add is, and we will touch on this later, but there was, I think we talked about, again, on a previous live stream, I mentioned that back in July, they launched custom instructions, and I said that's exciting, but it was only initially released to the US and Canada. The changes a couple of big changes in recent weeks is it was then made available to people on the normal free account. And then a week ago on Monday, they released it to the UK and the EU, which is really exciting. And I'll tell you why later on. So I think, Emily, if you're ready, we can probably start to go through our top 10. And and when we say our top 10, I mean, it's all subjective. You might love some of the things early in the list and hate ones later on, but we were kind of comparing what are the features which we think are great and which are the ones that doesn't really excite us that much. So we've got 10 to go through. We'll take turns going through them all, and I'll let Emily go first. What comes in at 10th place on the list of features?
So something that they've done is they've removed the feature where you get automatically logged out of ChatGPT. So if you're somebody who uses it a lot and you have to keep logging back in, they've removed that, or they've extended it at least. So There's that, and also they have actually updated the login page, so that does look a lot neater and a lot nicer. There is also a feature, just if you're not aware, where you can have two-factor authentication when you log in. So you can turn that off in the settings. So if you want to actually let me screen share, I'll just quickly show where that is. Just in here. So if you come down to the settings and we go into settings and beta here and data controls, it says here disable two-factor authentication. So I have it currently set up with an app on my phone where what happens is I will log in. I'll just log in regularly using the my username and password and everything, and then it will send a text to my phone and I will log in, or I actually have an app and it gives me a fresh code and I put that in. But if that's a lot of too much information, they have removed that feature where it automatically logs you out. So that's that. That is number 10.
Okay, so number 9 is actually an old thing. So that what Emily mentioned was something that they introduced on August the 3rd. Quite a few new things came out at the start of August. What I wanted to mention, which we put in 9th place because I don't get excited by it, but it was something they introduced, I think, last April that you may not be aware of. And that was the ability, if you're worried about privacy, security issues, then one of the options you've got is that you can turn on effectively a privacy mode, and that your chats won't get shared to train the model. There is a big downside to that, and this is why I don't get excited by it, and that is that your chats are only available for 30 days, then they disappear. And that to me is a big downside because we're using ChatGPT all the time, and I regularly go back to early chats. So just the other day, Tuesday, I was just going back through some of my early ones that I did back in April and March, just to see what some of the conversations were. And I'd remind myself there were some quite interesting things I'd started to explore that I'd not finished off. So I'm so glad that I still have access to all of that chat history. But if you don't know where that is, just very quickly, if I just go across to ChatGPT, again, if you go into the settings, which is the 3 dots right in the bottom left, and again, you go to settings and beta, and you go to data controls. It's this big button here in the top right that you can turn off. So it is a feature you want to be aware of, but as I say, I don't get excited by it, and neither does Emily. So that's number 9 in our list of features you want to be aware of. Let's go to number 8. Emily.
Yeah. So number 8 is they've added keyboard shortcuts. So if you're the kind of person that likes to do that and just tap the keys on your keyboard rather than clicking on the actual interface area, then I will swap over to my screen share again, and I'll just show you a couple of those, what they look like. So what I'm doing, I'm working from a Mac computer. So for a PC, it might be slightly different buttons, but what you can do is down in the corner here, there's this question mark tool, and I can click that and I can access my keyboard shortcuts from here. Alternatively, I can press, and it's going to tell me on here, this command and / button. So that opens up my keyboard shortcuts. So there's lots in here. We can see we can open a new chat. We can copy the chat and open the sidebar and things. So if I just give you an example of what that's going to look like, if I just close this down, I'm going to jump into one of my old conversations. So if I've got a conversation set up here, and then I'm going to hold down Command, Shift, and O for open, and that's going to start me a new conversation. So that's pretty useful. And then what I can also do is, let me just see what this chat is. This might be something easy. What I can do here is I can hold down Command, Shift, and Backspace, and that will delete my chat. So it will still give me a warning to say that I'm going to delete it. And then I can just click it from there and make sure that that's what I want to do. But yeah, there's lots of different shortcuts on here. You know, you can toggle the sidebar closed and things like that. You can copy the responses. Of course, if you are in this area anyway, then you can have, if you want to copy the chat, you've got this little clipboard icon. If you want to toggle the sideboard, you've got this here. But if you are the kind of person and you prefer tapping your keys to do that, you don't want to use your mouse, then they have got those shortcuts in there now. So that might be something that's worth exploring and having a bit of a look and see if you prefer using it in that way.
Thanks, Emily. Yeah, we put that at number 8 because it doesn't excite me that much, keyboard shortcuts, but I know some people love their keyboard shortcuts. So if you love shortcuts and you didn't know about that, they're there. Actually, where I get a little bit more excited, and I know perhaps Neil's thinking the same thing, is if you're one of these people that uses a Stream Deck, then what you could do is you could, with this keyboard shortcuts, I guess you could program your Stream Deck and create buttons to do some of those things. I might play with that. That sounds like a more useful. I'd rather press buttons and try and remember what those keyboard shortcuts are. Okay, let's move on to 10, 9, 8, 7. 7. I should have a countdown. Number 7 on the list. And this is another thing that they introduced in the August the 3rd update. The keyboard shortcuts was another one. And then the next one that you may have noticed is prompt suggestions and also suggested replies. And I think I can demonstrate this. What I should have said actually earlier was, I don't know if you know, if you're a regular, you might have known that on Tuesday there was a big outage for a few hours, an hour or so. ChatGPT went down completely. It was doing some really strange things at my end. My chats were disappearing and weird stuff was happening. I went and did a Google search and I found that yes, it had gone down. It was a big outage. Doesn't happen very often, but it did. Anyway, within an hour or so, it was back to normal. But I have noticed, and Emily the same, that occasionally there's a few glitchy things happening today. I guess they haven't fully solved it. So we are going to show a few things and just keep our fingers crossed that it is working. Anyway, what do I mean by the prompt suggestions, which we put at number 7? If I go to ChatGPT, you may well notice now, I'll just hide my sidebar. You may notice that when you go to create a chat, you will see at the bottom some prompt suggestions. Now, some people have said to me before on live streams, they've seen me have a whole screen full of prompt suggestions and they've said, where do they come from? Now, if you've seen some of my earlier live streams, it's as a result of certain Chrome extensions, which I know we'll talk about later. But now what's happened as of August the 3rd, the OpenAI have introduced some prompt suggestions inside. So it says, for example, help me pick a gift for my dad who loves fishing. If I just simply click on that, something's gone wrong. There you go. I told you there's something wrong with ChatGPT at the moment. It's not solved its problem from the other day. Let me just hit regenerate. I can't show you that. There you go. Let me try a different one. No, they've now disappeared. They've now disappeared completely, the prompts out. But anyway, the point I wanted to make was you will find that you have these prompts. I think putting at number 7 is probably a little bit, probably too high on the list, because I actually don't find them exciting at all. And here's the big thing that I think you want to be aware of. There are lots of people advertising. My Facebook feed is full of people saying, get my 1,000 prompts that you can use. And what I've found is that when you get libraries of prompts, it can be overwhelming. Most of them are absolute rubbish, if not all of them. And you can spend hours trying to find a decent prompt. My personal advice is that prompt suggestions are probably pretty useless. I think that much better is for you to figure out and learn how to do prompt engineering, because that's the key to, whether it's ChatGPT or any large language model, the results you're going to get are going to be dependent on how good your prompts are, how you structure those prompts. It's a little bit like learning a different language. And so I would strongly recommend that you would take the time to learn how to construct your prompts. What makes a good prompt? What information do you need to give ChatGPT to get better responses, better answers? So that's why it's there. If you need some inspiration, then you might find that feature that came out in the start of the month useful. I don't know. Personally, I don't find the prompt suggestions of any use whatsoever, and would like to just clear them, get rid of them. Okay, that's number 7. I'm just Seeing there's a few more comments coming. I'll look at those in a second. But let's go back to Emily for number 6.
Yeah, so at number 6, so far we've looked at sort of things within ChatGPT, but we wanted to give a mention to actually some extensions that you can get that just enhance the ChatGPT experience. So we're going to show you just a couple of our favorites. So let me just hop back over to my screen share. So if I go into my Chrome extensions now, I've already got a couple set up in here, and I'll just switch them on and show you them. I tend to turn them off because they do change the interface of ChatGPT, and I like to keep it clean. But when I do want to use them, I come in here and turn them on. It's quite easy. So the first one I've got here is this AI Prompt Genius, which I quite like. So if I turn that on and I then just come and refresh my feed, so we're having some issues. It might not work. Okay, so what it's done is it's now given me a sidebar on the right-hand side of my screen. And what I can do is save my favorite prompts. So we're going to look at something called custom instructions later, which Mark's going to show you about. But this is kind of an additional thing that I find quite useful if there are things that I regularly ask for. So, you know, if I've got a formula for my prompt for asking for social media information, make me set 10 social media posts with the following context. Make me a blog post with this information in this format. Whatever it might be that you use regularly, you can just create a new prompt. And then, well, I'll show you this one I have here, but this has not got much in it. So what you do is you name it, you put in your prompt. So this is my ideal client profile that I like to sub in early. And then you can give it a tag so that you can find it easily and things like that. And then it's slightly different than having lots of prompts saved in your notes area, really. So I like to use that one. It does add all of this kind of stuff to the middle, which is why I then tend to turn it off afterwards, because I don't like having it on all the time. But I do find it quite useful if I'm working through creating a lot of content, and maybe I'm writing a big ebook or doing lots of blogs or social media posts. I'll turn it on and use it. So another one we like is called Glasp. And you can see what it looks like here, this icon. Now what this one does is it allows you to, the main way that we use it is we use it on YouTube. What it does is it puts an icon next to your video, and you can get an immediate YouTube summary, and it will immediately put the a summarized version of the YouTube video into ChatGPT, and then ask it, give it the prompt to say, can you summarize this? And I think it asks for the 10 key points or something like that. So it saves you a lot of time with doing things like that, watching videos and such. And then my third favorite, I am whizzing through these because we've got a lot more to get through, is this one called TalkBerry. So what this one does is, if I turn that on and see if I can refresh this as well, what this one does is it adds a speaking feature. So if you, rather than clicking on here and typing in your answer, you want to speak your answer, your prompt, sorry. If you want to speak your prompt, or, you know, for other reasons, if maybe you're visually impaired, or you have hard of hearing, or, you know, something like that, then this can be really useful. You can just hit the record button. I'm not going to do it because I might get some weird feedback because we're on a live stream. But what you can do is hit the record button. And I have tried this, and it's pretty accurate. It does pick up my words, and you can speak your prompt rather than type it. And then what it's going to do is also speak the response back to you. And you can change the language here. So this is a really useful tool for if you are learning a language. You can speak to it in English and ask it to respond in Portuguese, for example, or vice versa. You can speak to it in a language and try and have a conversation with it in that language. So that's a really useful one if you're interested in something like that. So that's just a couple of our favorite extensions. I'll switch back over.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Right, that's 10 down to 6. So now we're down to the top 5. I thought, though, before we get into the top 5, where things get more exciting, let's just have a little bit of time just to address a couple of the comments and questions that have come in. So Mark Rayner said, since the US has instructions in the free version now, has it made its way to you guys yet to play with? Yes, and we'll talk about that in a short while, Mark. We also had Mark said on the comment about prompt engineering, yes, it's been reported that people are willing to pay up to $300,000. In fact, I've seen a slightly higher figure than that for prompt engineers. That's how highly rated that this skill is. So you really need to be learning about prompt engineering. And those of you that have our course on ChatGPT, I have a bunch of videos, training videos on there teaching you how to do prompt engineering. What else have we got? I think Neil... So Neil's got an interesting question. He said, what is the best way to copy content from ChatGPT to a social media post? Do Facebook, LinkedIn recognize ChatGPT generated content, and is it affected in any way by a simple copy and paste? Emily, any thoughts on that?
I'd say probably just the best way is to copy and paste it onto a document, and then, if you've got a scheduler tool, we use MeetEdgar, we would just get ChatGPT to write 10 to 20 tweets or whatever it might be, just copy and paste that, put it into MeetEdgar, and then schedule that and send it off. So in terms of the best way to copy it across is probably just as simple as doing that. I don't think it's affected in any way. I think there are actually some... Google now ranks AI content. It doesn't what's the word? It doesn't penalize AI generated content. So some areas will, if you're writing an essay for school or something, some people will penalize that. But Google actually don't penalize AI generated content anymore. So that's not going to be an issue. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fast moving world. This might change, but I guess Google, having their own AI, don't want to penalize their own AI either. And of course, there are two ways, if people don't know, there's two ways to copy and paste. You can either just take the response and highlight it and just hit your Control-C and Control-V, or you can... Actually, that's not a response. Or you can see, I think Emily mentioned it earlier, next to the thumbs up and thumbs down is a little clipboard symbol, and that copies it to your clipboard, and then you can just paste it into wherever it wants to go, Facebook, a Word document, whatever. I don't know if this is a question or a statement from Mark. He says QQ ChatGPT is down right now. That seems like a statement. I think there's a problem with ChatGPT right now, which it would be during our live stream. I can't confirm it because I haven't had time to check, but it was definitely down on Tuesday, proper down. It was affecting lots of people, but it seems to be they've got a few glitches right now. So we'll just have to work our way through it. It doesn't seem to happen very often, but this week's a bad week. Laurie says, do you have a link or a slide of the 10 features? No, but what I'll do is I'm just going to highlight that, Laurie, to remind me that at the end we'll do a quick summary of the 10. Okay, let's move on because we're going to spend a bit more time on the next 5. So number 5 in our list, which is one that I find really useful. You may not have noticed it or even thought of using it, and it came out I think it was in July. It's not a new one, but it's the share link. The fact that you can collaborate with your team and share conversations, share chats. We use that frequently. So just on Tuesday, for example, I was creating some content for those of you who are in the Value Pricing Academy. A week on Wednesday, we are creating for you a whole bunch of marketing tools to help you promote a debt elimination consulting service for clients that are in debt. And I started the process of creating some great content using ChatGPT. And then I wanted my daughter Gabby to then build on that and build some workbooks and some PowerPoint slides and so on. And so you can share with your team the chats that you are creating. So if you've never done that before, let me just show you how you do that. If I go back to here and hopefully this will work. So when you find a chat, they've moved it, by the way. It used to be a symbol that was over on the left-hand side in the black bar. you've got the edit where you can edit the title of the chat and the bin. And it did appear there, but they've now moved it. So if you've lost the share facility, it's now right in the top right. So that's where it says share chat. And if any of your chats you want to share, you just click on that button there, and you can, there's a few settings you can set here if you want, but then you can delete the link. But you just hit this copy link. It copies the link to your chat board, and then what we do is we just send it through. I'll just email it to Gabby or to Emily and say, can you build on this conversation? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that with Emily. So I've just sent her, Emily, I've just sent you that link so she can show you what happens on the recipient's end. If you've got that link yet.
Yep.
Yep.
So let me just switch over. So when I click on the link, it opens this up in this separate tab. So I've got the conversation here. And what I can then do is I can click continue this conversation, and all being well, if ChatGPT works, I think it is down at the minute. We did try this earlier, so here we go. What it's going to do is then open that conversation in my own ChatGPT account, so that I can now, off the back of that, I can start asking questions and various things. So it doesn't affect the conversation that Mark still has. So what it does, it makes a copy, and I can then edit it as my own version. So they don't sync in real time. But what I can do is add anything I want to this conversation, and then I can do the same thing, and I can go up to the corner, the top corner, and share the conversation and send the link back over with my edits added to it. So that's what it looks like.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Yeah, the share link, I don't think a lot of people use, but I find it just so useful for sharing amongst your team and collaborating. But it also might be if you want to share some content with your clients, or you want to share something in a Facebook group, for example. Okay, that's number 5. We're getting to the exciting end now. Number 4. What's number 4, Emily?
I will do number 4, but I actually, just off the conversation sharing as well, I thought I'd just show you. You can then find all of the links that you have previously shared. So let me just hop back onto here. Sorry about this. So if I just come to my settings and go to settings and beta here, I can then go to data controls. There's a tab here called shared links. So if I wanted to go and manage all of the links that I've previously shared, then I can find them all here. If there's a link that I've given out that I no longer want people to have access to, I can delete it from here as well, and that will break the links as well. So I thought I'd just mention that before I moved on. What I then want to look at is plugins. So I'll stay in my screen share here. So what we're going to look at now is plugins. So if you've not used this before, what this looks like is this is your standard new chat area for ChatGPT, and we can use 3.5 over here, or we can use GPT-4. And if we're using 4, there's this feature here called plugins. So what you're going to do is click on that, and that then gives you this selection here. Now, I've already got a few selected, but if you don't have any yet, then what you're going to do is scroll down to the bottom, and mine's a little bit hidden here. Another one of the kind of bugs that is happening here. Let me see if I can get into this. No, it's going to be difficult. So I'm not sure why that's happening, but normally what happens is you can scroll down to the bottom, and it will say, I think, something about going to the plugin store, and that will then open you a new tab, and you can browse through all of the various plugins that you want to use. So I've just picked out a couple of my favorites, the ones that we use, and we have talked about these in a lot more detail before. Our favorites are web requests. And what that does is, and by the way, you do need to choose your 3 that you're going to use, or you don't have to use all 3, but you can only use 3 at once, and you have to choose them before you start a conversation. You can't get halfway through the conversation and add another plugin in. So you have to make sure you've kind of pre-planned the conversation that you're going to have. And the one that we use a lot is web requests. So they did have a web browsing feature, but they've turned that off. for various reasons. But there is this kind of loophole. So what you can do is use the web request feature, and then in your prompt, you can say, use the web to research whatever it might be, something that you would need the web for, find me today's weather or something like that, that it won't have in its kind of information storage in its banks. And what you can do is just make sure that that's selected, and then it will set off on a conversation. It will start doing its research. It will go and look at the websites and bring you back an answer that is really useful. So there's that you can do. Another one that we like is, where is it here? It's called Video Insights. So this one, it will, what I would do is select that beforehand. And then if I want to give it the link to, any kind of video on video, it will watch the video and then give you a summary, and then you can ask questions about the video as well. So if you've got an hour-long video that you don't have the time to watch, you can use this, get it to summarize it, and then have a conversation with ChatGPT asking certain questions about those different features. So those are the first two, web requests and video insights. And then another one that is going to be really powerful is Zapier, and you're going to need to connect your own Zapier or Zapier, however you say it. You'll need to connect your own account first. And then what that does is it acts as a bridge to thousands of different applications. So if you want to connect to your email account, if you're using MailChimp or HubSpot or something like that, if you're using, a website builder like Instapage or Lead Pages or something like that, if you're using, whatever portals you might use, whatever social media accounts you might use, if you have a scheduling tool, if you have a calendar booking system, anything that you can think of, as long as Zapier have it in its kind of stack of apps that it uses, you can connect it to ChatGPT and then ask it to create a Zap based on what you want it to do. So you can ask it to create a Zap that when somebody books this meeting on Calendly, it sets my appointment up in Zoom. Okay, so that's probably a bad example because you can do that in Calendly itself, but there is a lot of possibilities that you can do with this particular plugin. So unfortunately, because ChatGPT is up, I can't really show you them in action, but hopefully that's at least given you a good idea of some plugins that you might use.
Thanks, Emily. Actually, I can actually show that because it's okay on mine. So if I just go to my screen for a second, as Emily said, you just select ChatGPT 4 with plugins, and then when you scroll to the bottom of the plugins that you've already selected, you'll see the plugin store here. And you go to the plugin store. It tells you a bit about them, and then you'll get to the store and you can search for the one that you want. And it's getting a bit overwhelming now. I think last time I saw a number, it had gone to over 800. I'm sure it's even more than that. The challenge with the plugins is there's some extremely powerful ones, but there's also a lot of rubbish in there. So you can spend forever going through looking for the good ones, which is why from time to time, Emily and I will do a session where we walk you through what are some of our favorite plugins. And it's continually changing because there's new plugins arriving all the time. Some are being taken off the platform as well because OpenAI aren't happy with them. You might have seen those little red shield symbols next to a few. It's because they've become unapproved. So it is constantly changing all the time. But nevertheless, there are some really powerful plugins in there that will do some amazing things. Okay, we have a top three now, and then hopefully we've got some time for some more questions. Top three. And number three is, we've just talked about the power of plugins. Plugins are third-party plugins. But ChatGPT back in right at the end of June, I think it was, launched their own plugin, which back then was called Code Interpreter. And they have just changed the name of it this week. I think it was Monday. They changed it. They announced, you may not have seen it. I've said before that Code Interpreter, I think, is a stupid name because it's really misleading. Code Interpreter to me sounds like it's something for coders and therefore of no use to us whatsoever. So it's easily dismissed, but they've changed it to Advanced data analysis. If I just switch across to here quickly, when you're on ChatGPT 4, you'll now see it says advanced data analysis. That was just the renamed code interpreter. And I think advanced data analysis, why they didn't call it that right from the outset, I have no idea, because that basically says what it is. It's advanced data analysis, which is much more useful to us as accountants than what code interpreter implies. So I'm not going to go into it now, because I think partly because of time and partly because I think we'll need to do a separate session on it. But the thing about code interpreter, let me start. Advanced data analysis, I'm going to have to learn now not to call it code interpreter. The thing about advanced data analysis is that whereas normal ChatGPT, you give it a prompt and the response is text, you get a text response. What code interpreter does is allow you to feed it documents, information, and as well as giving you a response in text, it can also do something for you. It can create something for you. And they just updated it just recently. I think it was the August the 3rd update, where they enabled you to upload not just one document, but up to 10 documents and a mix of documents. So why might this be useful? Well, the main use for it is you can upload Excel spreadsheets, 1 to 10 Excel spreadsheets, and then you can ask it questions. You can get to do analysis of the Excel spreadsheet. And what makes it more powerful than just simply giving an Excel spreadsheet in the normal ChatGPT is, and the reason I think it was called Code Interpreter is because what it does is it uses Python code. It creates code to come up with the answer. So if you ask it to summarize an Excel spreadsheet, it will then figure out what Python code would it need to create to go and do the math to come back to you and give you the correct analysis. So you may have heard before people say one of the problems of ChatGPT is it can't do complex math. Well, it can't do complex math with the normal large language model. But Code Interpreter, because it uses Python code to create code, it can do extremely complex math and advanced data analysis. And so that opens up all sorts of possibilities for us as accountants, particularly if you want to upload CSV files, Excel files. But there's actually so much more to it than that. You can upload images, you can manipulate images. If you came to the 2-day virtual summit the few weeks back, I showed you how really quickly you can create QR codes. So I think I showed you earlier. I showed you earlier today. This is a good reminder if you've not got our eBook yet. The eBook ChatGPT for accountants and bookkeepers, you can grab that with your smartphone by just holding up to the QR code. That QR code was created in Code Interpreter. I just asked it to. I said, give me a QR code for. I then pasted in the URL, and it went and created the code, the Python code, to then give me a QR code, which I simply just copy and pasted. So there's all sorts of things it can do. I don't want to get into all the detailed stuff now because most of it's not stuff totally relevant to accountants. But I think the main things that you would do is do things around data analysis using CSV files and Excel spreadsheets. And if you want to find out a little bit more on that, I did put, when Code Interpreter first came out back in end of June, early July, I did a video. It's on my YouTube channel that I can't remember what it's called right now. I'm trying to see if I can see it, but I can't. Anyway, there is a video on Code Interpreter where I think I walked through how you can summarize an Excel spreadsheet. So that's Code Interpreter, or more correctly, Advanced Data Analysis. Right, we've got the top two now. Emily, what's number 2 on the list?
Okay, so number 2 is actually, if you've been using the free version, then you will only have access to GPT 3.5, which is their earlier model, the large language model that's been trained. But what we recommend is that you do upgrade to the Plus account, so that gives you access to GPT 4, which is really a lot more of a powerful model. It's got a little bit more training. It's a bit more advanced. The answers that you can get tend to just be a bit more nuanced, a bit more. They're just better answers. You can input larger prompts, and also when you're on the Plus version, so you get access to GPT-4, and then it also gives you priority access for when they're at a high capacity. So you get access before the free version people, and you also get access to any new features that are released. So the features that we have mentioned, the what was code interpreter and is now advanced data analysis, and the plugins, you will need to have the Plus account in order to access those. And when they do add any new features, you automatically get to test those as in the beta versions if you are a Plus member. So we really recommend that you do have the Plus version, if nothing else, just to get access to GPT-4. The kind of difference between 3.5 and 4, I would say is a better, more nuanced, more educational, I guess, answer. It's a better informed answer. It's a tiny bit slower, and we're talking seconds. We're talking milliseconds that it's slower. But yeah, GPT-4 and using the Plus account is definitely the way to go.
Awesome. And I did notice earlier, Michelle Evans said, it says ChatGPT is at capacity and you have to wait. Now, that could be because of the glitches of today, but that is one of the issues that was one of the reasons why I'm going to assume, Michelle, you might be on the free plan. And that's one of the downsides. On the free plan, you can hit capacity and you have to wait. Whereas if you upgrade, then you are much more likely to get access as and when you need it. So if you're serious about using ChatGPT, I think it's a no-brainer to upgrade to Plus. It's only $20 plus tax per month. And just the time it saves is extraordinary. I would guess that, what would I do? I did something the other. Oh, I had a friend of mine. This is something Emily mentioned earlier. I had a friend of mine who asked me to review her website, and I said the problem with your website is you've got a blog on it, and your blog is already out of date. The last post was several weeks ago. But I said, I noticed you've put loads of videos on your website. So I said, look, why don't you do this? Why don't you use GLASP, which is the Chrome extension that Emily mentioned? Why don't you use GLASP, go to YouTube channel where the videos are, and you can take the transcription at the touch of a button into ChatGPT and then ask it to format it and write it as a blog post. She messaged me back and said, wow, that took me 7 minutes to write 6 blog posts. Because of the automation involved. It's extraordinary the time it can take or save. So to me, I think it's a no-brainer to upgrade. Which brings us on to number 1, my favorite feature. And I mean, there's so many great features there already. But the thing that I'm most excited about is custom instructions, which is very, very new, and particularly if you're in the UK or the EU. So one of the criticisms of ChatGPT is that, particularly if you want written output, if you want to write a report for your clients, or you want to write an email or blog post, or use it to help you write an ebook, then you have to be very careful in your prompt to train it in your writing style, the tone of voice you want to use, and so on. And yes, you can do that, but then every time you start a brand new chat, you have to do it all again. And so I had a standard prompt that was about my writing style. I would feed it at the start of any chat where the output was going to be something that was going to be written that I would use, an email, a report or something. But it was a bit of a pain to have to keep every new chat to start off and train it in my writing style and so on. And so what custom instruction does is it allows you to set that right up front, and it will remember that across all of your chats. And this is particularly useful because there was actually some research recently, and I think it was Emily that flagged this up to me, was that there was a lot of people reporting, is ChatGPT 3.5 getting dumber? Because we'd all noticed it internally that comparing the responses we're getting in April to today, we found that it was coming up with phrasing that we wouldn't use, weird phrasing for stuff. And so that was challenging. But then custom instructions came out, and once you can figure out how to teach it your style, then I'm finding you're getting much, much better responses that I'm comfortable with of using that in a piece of written content as it is without too much editing. So let me show you where it is. And it is available now on the free plan. Originally, it was just GPT Plus users. So again, if you hit the three dots at the bottom left, you'll see it pulls up custom instructions. And if we go to custom instructions, you have two text boxes. You have, unfortunately, there's a maximum characters. It's a 1,500 character limit. And essentially, what you do is you first of all tell it in the first box, what would you like ChatGPT to know about you to provide better responses? And so that's the context, that's the background. So one of the things that you might, at a simple level, one of the things that's been discovered from testing is that if you tell ChatGPT at the start of a chat what role to play, it will give you a better answer. In other words, if you said to it, let's say you wanted to report that was going to analyze an Excel spreadsheet and you want to report for your client, if you said, I want you to act as a financial accountant at the start of your prompt, you will get a better response than if you don't. And that's because the default persona that ChatGPT plays is I am a personal assistant. And so it will answer you as if it's a personal assistant. But if you ask it to answer as if it's a financial accountant, you'll get a different, a more detailed, it's subtle, but it's something that you could then much more readily use. So it may be that that's what you put in, you might just say in your custom instructions, you might say, I am a financial accountant, and you will find that will make a difference. Now, the second box says, how would you like ChatGPT to respond? And that's where you tell it things like the tone of voice, the writing style, so you can teach it your style of writing. And then you have a little toggle at the bottom where you can choose whether to enable it for new chats or not. So it may be from time to time you don't want it to apply that. You want to do perhaps something completely different, and you may want to then turn that off, and that's fine. But the default is every time you start a new chat, it will use that. Now, the key thing then is to figure out what do you put in those boxes. And if you look at all the examples that OpenAI give, for example, they're all one-liners. But what I've discovered from my research is that you want to use all 1,500 characters. The more information you give it, the better. And if you've got our training course, you will notice that just last week I created a training video step by step how to create a persona for a financial accountant. So you can just simply take from our training course the persona that we've given you and use that, or tweak it and play with it. What I'm finding so far, it's fairly new, this custom instructions, but what I'm finding is it makes a huge difference in the quality of the response. So if you're using it for written stuff like client reports, emails, Facebook posts, and you've been frustrated sometimes at the tone of voice it's using, this makes a huge difference. Right, that's our top 10. So I did promise somebody, Laurie said, do you have a link or slide of the 10 features? So if I go through them, if I remember, Emily, you started off with removal of logging out, which we don't get too excited with. Also, you can turn off the chat history if you're really worried about privacy, but that means your chat's only saved for 30 days. So personally, I wouldn't do that. Emily, you talked about the keyboard shortcuts, which is useful if you like them, particularly if you're on a Stream Deck. Number 4, we talked about the prompt suggestions might be useful if you want some creativity, but I said that the reality is I think you're better off just learning prompt engineering. Then we got into more exciting stuff. It wasn't a ChatGPT thing, but Emily, you talked about the Chrome extensions. There are some really cool ones. Emily mentioned 3. Then number 5 in our top 10 countdown was the share link, which I love. Then number 4 was plugins. Number 3 was the advanced data analysis, previously called Code Interpreter. Number 2 was upgrading and using ChatGPT 4 as opposed to 3.5. And number 1, my favorite, is this new feature of custom instructions. So that's my 10. Anything you want to add, Emily, or should we go into questions?
I think that's it.
Okay. So what questions have we got? So there's a question here, but I think somebody actually kindly answered it. It was, from the account center. When I use the copy button and paste into a Word document, I get it in a table format. What am I doing wrong? And Laurie said, there was some help from Laurie there. I'll just put on the screen and leave it there. As I said earlier, there are two ways to copy and paste information. You can just highlight it and copy and paste, Control-C, Control-V, or you can use the clipboard. They both give you slightly different formatting. One of them does put, I find, really annoying formatting, so I have to go and reformat it. But try what Laurie said, because that sounds like an interesting way of getting around that. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, Emily.
I tend to, I just use the Notes app on my computer. So I copy and paste and I put it into Notes first and then copy and paste it from there. And then it goes onto a document just as text. So just an extra step.
I must admit, I do that quite a lot sometimes, put it into Notes, because then it takes out all the formatting and then you can post it somewhere else. Okay, great. Somebody said, can you put the list of the plugins Emily just mentioned into the chat? So I guess, Emily, you could perhaps do that if you've got time. They're a Facebook user. I don't know who it is. It didn't say, but they're on Facebook right now. Or perhaps you might just want to go through them again. Just quickly remind them.
Yeah, I can't type in the chat, but the ones that I talked about were web requests. So maybe somebody else can type it in for me. Web requests, video insights, and Zapier or Zapier, however you want to say that. Those were the three I talked about.
Great. There was a question from Sarah Kelly, but Sarah, I don't understand the question, so forgive me. Let me just read it again. It might make sense. I had to step away for a bit, so apologies if you covered it. Does the sharing feature work if you don't share a network or email domain? I'm not sure what you mean by sharing a network or email domain. Does that mean something to you, Emily?
If what you're asking is, do you have to send it to somebody's particular email? Like when you share it, send it to a specific person, then no. What it does is it generates a link and then anybody can click on that link. But when you click on the link, if you want to then bring that into your own ChatGPT account, then you need to be logged in, and which case you need to have your email in there so that you can log into your own account. There is also an option when you do click to share to add a name to it. So you can either leave it anonymous or you can add a name. But I don't think you need to have any email addresses in there. But I'm not sure if that's exactly what you mean. But hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, all it's sharing is a URL, a link. Okay, I think Neil did ask a question, but what did he say? Is that why you can't go to the plugin store, Emily, because you already have 3 selected? No, Neil, I think the only reason was just because, and I'm guessing, Emily, in your case, probably because of the way you were screen sharing, it overlapped everything, yeah.
I worked it out. I was zoomed in too much, so I just had to zoom out so that I could see more of the table and then I could click it. Yeah, that one's on me.
Yeah. Laurie says, what is the name of the code plugin? I'm assuming that's when I mentioned Code Interpreter, which is now called Advanced Data Analysis, and that's not in the plugin store because it's their own. Let me just show let me show you where that is again. So if I go back to here, when you go to ChatGPT 4, you've got, whoops, let me select that again. You've got the default is just the normal text. Then you've got the bottom, the plugins, but then you've got advanced data analysis. It's not inside the plugin store. It's shown separately. And they are both in beta, which does mean that, I mean, there are some limitations with the advanced data analysis, but I know that when they get out of beta, it'll just get even better still. Right. Anything else? Questions? Thank you, Deirdre, who is new, who says thanks. She has to go. Okay, so I'll let you answer this first. We've got. It'll have to be a quick answer, Emily. Keith says, which version or brand of ChatGPT would you have a person who has never used it before?
So which brand? What I would suggest is ChatGPT is the main thing. So if you go to OpenAI.com and you can sign up for a free account, which is ChatGPT, and that uses the 3.5 model, you can sign up for free. But what we suggest you then do is upgrade for the paid version, which is something like $20, I think, plus sales tax per month. And that gives you access to all these extra features. So it's still the same program, if you will. It's ChatGPT, but then you just go in and you upgrade and you add your card information in and pay for the upgraded version. So hope that answers it.
Great, thank you. And then I think we'll do one final quick question, even though we've now officially finished. But Michelle did say, what were the Chrome plugins that Emily mentioned? Do you want to list those quickly?
Yeah, so they were called, the first one was AI Prompt Genius, and the other one was Glass, so that's GLASP. And the third one was called Talkberry, so Talk BERRY, Talkberry. And I think I did show them on screen earlier as well, so you might be able to rewatch it so that you can see what the little icons look like as well.
Awesome, thank you. So has this been useful? If it has, let us know by hitting that thumbs up icon. Also, it'd be great because we read the comments afterwards. What's of those 10, which is the one that gets you excited the most? What's the thing that you learned today? What was the best thing you got out of today? Let me know in the comments and we will read those. Our next live stream, I think we're going to do it in 3 weeks today. 3 weeks today. Can't tell you what date that is because I can't remember. 21st, I think, September 21st. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do best ways to use ChatGPT for marketing, for growing your accounting firm. But if you've got any requests on anything else you want us to teach you about ChatGPT or AI, just reach out, ask us. And if we get requests for any particular training, live stream content, then we will do that. I can see the comments are coming in, which is great. And so we'll see you in 3 weeks for the next live stream. And then Emily, I think it's in 5 weeks, 4 weeks on Tuesday, we are running Value 2023, which is our 3-day virtual conference all about value pricing. So if you want to learn more about value pricing, look out for that 3-day conference. When does it take place, Emily? Do you remember? Is it October?
The 3rd till the 5th. 3rd to the 5th.
Yeah, 3rd to the 5th. So you'll see, I think on Tuesday, we'll start promoting that. We'll start off with a 75% coupon code for the people who get their tickets early. If you're in the Value Pricing Academy or the Bookkeepers Pricing Academy, you'll get a free ticket anyway as part of our academy. Okay, thank you so much for coming along. Thank you for the comments. Thank you, Emily. We will see you on the next live stream in 3 weeks. Bye for now.
I wasted all my time, I wasted all my nights, I wasted it on someone who's indifferent. He didn't love me right, he told me I was blind, but I never really wanted to listen.